Hi, my name is Nick Holland and welcome to a House of Bronte episode for World Book Day 2025, and we're looking at Agnes Grey by Anne Brontë. I'm Nick Holland. I'm the author of 4 Bronte biographies, including In Search of Anne Brontë and Crave the Rose, Anne Brontë at 200. So you can say I'm an Anne Brontë fan. I'm a Bronte fan. So on World Book Day 2025, I want to have a look at a Bronte novel. Now, it's a novel about a governess. She doesn't have it all her way. She has a few problems in love, a few problems with the people she works with, problems in her family. So you might be thinking, understandably, that I'm talking about Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë, but I'm not. I'm talking about a book that was written a year earlier than that. It came out after Jane Eyre, but it was written earlier, so it influenced Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. And the book is Agnes Grey by Anne Brontë. Brilliant Anne Brontë. Now, since my last full-length video here on House of Bronte, I've got married, which is wonderful. Had an amazing time, the best thing I've ever done. So thank you for all people who said well done and sent me congratulations. But I might be married now, I might have a Mrs. Holland, but I'm still going to carry on making these fantastic videos about the Brontes. And today it's about Agnes Grey. Now, Agnes Grey was one of the first 2 Bronte novels to be accepted for publication, and it was accepted for publication alongside Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. They're very different books. I think Wuthering Heights is the greatest book ever written. It's a very powerful book. Been made into lots of films, lots of TV series. Agnes Grey is a wonderful book in its own right. I think it's the most underrated book of all. More people should know it. But it's a gentler book. It's a shorter book. You can read it very quickly. But it's gentle, but it's very rewarding. And one reason why I love Agnes Grey so much is that it's semi-autobiographical. It's the most autobiographical of all the Bronte novels. Lots of Bronte novels, including Jane Eyre, including Shirley by Charlotte Brontë, including Villette by Charlotte Brontë, have autobiographical elements to them. I think Agnes Grey is the most autobiographical book. So it's fascinating for Bronte scholars, as well as being a great read. When I was writing In Search of Anne Brontë, I looked at a copy of Agnes Grey. In fact, I looked at this very copy. This was the one I used. And I noted down instances that correlated with Anne's own life. As you see, the book is full of highlighted markings. I wouldn't normally highlight books, but this came in very useful when I was writing my first Anne Brontë biography. And so it starts, the very first line is almost autobiographical or semi-autobiographical, where she says, "All true histories contain instruction, but in some the treasure may be hard to find." So Anne's saying right away, this is a true history, and it's got instruction if you care to find it. So then the second paragraph, the first line, "My father was a clergyman of the north of England," which was true. Anne Bronte's father was Irish, Patrick Bronte, but was a clergyman of the north of England, in the north of England, in Haworth, West Riding of Yorkshire at the time. Anne Bronte wrote this novel. I paused the video there because my wife just came upstairs with a cup of coffee for me. The dog, Matisse, came up with her. I should have kept the cameras rolling, really. That would have been my best video by far. So it's all go here at Holland Towers. You might hear my tortoises woken up as well. You might hear him in the background. But we're here to talk about Agnes Grey. So as I said, there are lots of autobiographical elements. But at the heart of a novel is Agnes. So Agnes, a bit like Anne, same first initial. And really, I think it's based very largely on Anne, a young woman, loves her cat, loves her family, loves her animals, but She wants to make her own way in the world. She wants to be a governess. This is just what Anne Brontë did as a teenager. She said, I want a job of my own. You know, I'm the youngest in the family, but I'm not hopeless. I've got skills just as much as Charlotte and Emily and Bramwell. I can do my own thing. I want to be a governess. So she went out to be a governess in a place called Mirfield in West Yorkshire, the West Riding of Yorkshire. Now, Mirfield, she worked for a family called the Inghams, and they were difficult to work for. We know from reports of that family, from descendants of the family, in fact from a granddaughter of one of Anne Bronte's charges, one of her pupils, that they made her life a hell really, and she retaliated by tying them to table legs while she sat there reading and writing poetry, and she was sacked for that eventually. But she got revenge on the Inghams by portraying them as the monstrous Bloomfield family in Agnes Grey. So there are two distinct parts of Agnes Grey, the two governess jobs. She goes to work for the Bloomfield family, who are horrible. The children, I won't spoil it, but read it. It's very brutal in its depiction of childhood cruelty and children who are out of control, really, about how hard a governess life is. And then nursing her bruises, but she says, I'm going to carry on. I'm not giving in. I'm going to be a governess again. And again, that's exactly what Anne Brontë did. She went to be a governess again. In real life, she went to work for the Robinson family of Thorpe Green Hall near York, and she was there for 5 years and very highly regarded by them. They really loved their governess. Even though she found it a bit hard at times, but again, that family, the Robinsons of Thorpe Green Hall, they recreated as the Murray family, the second family that Agnes goes to be a governess for. So again, it's some very autobiographical elements. I think the most moving element of it, Agnes falls in love with an assistant curate. It's not the chief curate, he's the assistant to the curate. It's called Reverend Weston. And I think it reflects, and we'll look at this more fully, because I think it's absolutely central to Anne Bronte's life, to Anne Bronte's writing, and to life in Haworth Parsonage with the Bronte family. Anne Bronte, I believe, fell in love with William Wakeman, her father's assistant curate. I think there's lots of clues to that. I get to say we'll look at that in another video, but I'm absolutely convinced Anne Bronte loved Wakeman. Wakeman, I think, quite possibly, probably, I think, loved Anne. If they'd have both lived longer, they might have married. Why not? That would have been expected, normal at the time. But Wakeman died even earlier than Anne died, so we'll look at that. But the real tragedy, the tragedy of Anne Bronte's life. She had her love, Wakeman, torn away from her. All her hopes she might have had, would have been expected to have really at that time, of marriage, of a family, all torn away from her. So she couldn't have a happy moment in her real life. Real life, cholera had denied it for her. So she said, I'm going to give myself a happy ending, on the page at least. And so she does. Agnes and Weston, here's a spoiler alert, sorry, but they do eventually get married. And I think that's Anne giving herself the happy ending that she deserved, but she didn't get, because life for Brontes and life at this time was hard. But I think it's such a beautiful book, such a beautiful ending. And the way it ends, it's quite sudden, very understated like the book. But I think it's so moving, so beautiful. I won't read it all out, because it's beautiful. You can read it yourself. Just read the last line. She said, and it moved me reading it. It's just a simple line where Anne Brontë says, as Agnes, but we know Agnes is really Anne Brontë, and now I think I have said sufficient. Drop the mic. That's the end of Agnes Grey, and it's a beautiful ending to a beautiful book. It really deserves reading. It influenced Charlotte Brontë, no doubt. Influenced other people. George Moore, the 19th century writer, an early 20th century writer. He was painted by Manet. He was a very successful writer at the time, and he was a huge fan of Anne Brontë. So I'm just looking here at a quote that he said about Anne Brontë, about Agnes Grey. He said, Agnes Grey, says George Moore, Agnes Grey is the most perfect prose narrative in English literature, a narrative simple and beautiful as a muslin dress. We know that we are reading a masterpiece. Nothing short of genius could have set them before us so plainly, and yet with restraint. And Moore went on to say that if Anne Brontë had have lived 10 years longer, she could have taken a position alongside Jane Austen, perhaps even a higher position, George Moore said. So that's high praise indeed, and well deserved. Beautiful book. Anne Brontë wrote 2 novels. Her second novel, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, again, is a very different book. Book of genius, looking at very tough subjects to look at the time and now. It still resonates today. So again, that's really well worth reading. Very different books. This is well worth reading as well. So people think of Tenant when think of Anne Brontë. Think of Agnes Grey. World Book Day, or whatever you're seeing this video, you can go out and buy this book cheaply. You can read it quickly, and you'll be all the better for doing that. Now I slurp my coffee as my tortoise scrabbles around in the background. My tortoise Ovid. It's World Book Day, so I'm going to plug a new book by myself. It's Emily Bronte, this time A Life in 20 Poems. It's a new paperback edition just out from the History Press. I loved writing this. I look at Emily Bronte's life through 20 poems. No Coward Soul is one of them, but lots of wonderful poems by Emily. And I look at how that illuminates chapters of her life. So I tell her life through her poetry. There are 2 new appendices with, I think, all new information on Emily Bronte. So it's available from the History Press, online, Amazon, all good booksellers. They can order it in if they don't have it. Or, if you want a signed copy, message below, message me, and I'll see what I can do. So thank you for joining me to celebrate Agnes Grey, to celebrate World Book Day, to celebrate my wedding. Again, thank you if I point to my right finger. On the left hand. Thank you so much, and join me again for more Bronte information, news and views here on the House of Bronte. Thank you.